My name is Kim from the Pennington Public Library, and I am delighted to be joining dietitian Alyssa Luning tonight, who is streaming from Robert Wood Johnson's new location in Pennington to kick off our plant-based recipes program. Before we start, if you have any questions during the program, please write them in the Q&A section, and we'll be addressing a select number of these questions at the end of the program. And right now, I would like to turn this over to our program co-sponsor, Robert Wood Johnson Barnabas Health, and specifically Joyce Cantalese, the Better Health Manager. Joyce, thank you so much for joining us.
Always. Thank you so much for having us and for this really valuable partnership. So hello, everyone watching. Welcome to your Better Health program, coming to you live from our RWJ Fitness and Wellness Center here in Hamilton Township, New Jersey. With me tonight is one of my best buds, Alyssa Luning, who is our registered dietitian, certified bariatric counselor, and then I get a little goofy, but my favorite initials for Alyssa are CHEF. She is a trained chef. So I value that so much because you teach us what to eat, right? What's healthy, but you really teach us how to cook it. So we're going to like it.
Yes.
And that's the challenge for a lot of those people out there watching. And I know for me as well, I want it to taste good.
Right. Yeah.
So we'll talk a lot about that. But this is a 5-week series. So let's just tell them what to expect. So tonight we're going to talk about nutrition and why and how.
Right. Yeah.
So we'll cover a lot of the basics tonight. And then each week we're going to do a different time of day, right?
Right.
So tell them what next week is.
Yeah. So like with the plant-based meals, you kind of got to go one at a time.
That's right.
So if you don't know, if you want to have your breakfast to get a little bit, more on the, plant-based protein side, sometimes you might stop and go like, okay, how?
Where do I start? Right.
Right. And the best part is that the best place to start is where you already are.
Okay.
So things that you might already make, like cereals and different stir fries and hashes and different things you might do for breakfast, they can be done in a
plant-based way.
Yes. In a plant-based way, but we're going to focus on, a fiber and getting as much nutrients in there as possible. And we got a couple of recipes for each program coming up.
Right.
Yes.
So next week will be breakfast. And then the following week is going to be lunch, right?
Lunch. Yes. And it's the same kind of idea. We want to have lunch. You don't want to sit down and have a giant bowl of like kale and black beans with stuff that you don't even understand.
Gross.
Yeah, no, it shouldn't be like that. That's gross. And that's the response I get, when counseling with people is if people will just say, I'm not going to eat rabbit food.
Right.
I don't want anybody to eat rabbit food because we're people.
Exactly.
We need to eat people food. But when it comes to, making sure that you've got enough produce in your diet, you've got enough vitamins and minerals and all that, super important to just consider what you can do with what you already have in your artillery.
There you go.
Yes.
That's great. And
so
after that, we're going to do dinner, right?
Yeah. Lunch. So we're going to do big thing on lunch, and then we're going to go right into dinner time.
Okay.
Things that are really easy for you to throw together, at night, because, if it's a night like tonight, we're going to be done here like 8 o'clock. Dinner is going to be a little late, so it has to take a little bit of time.
That makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah. And, better to have something ready to make at home that's pretty simple than, going through the drive-through at any point in time. They don't.
Alyssa would not recommend that.
Yeah. And that's the culinary background there, working in the kitchens and the restaurants. They don't care.
No, they don't.
No, it's just oil, salt, they want to hook you and get you back. So although they might be marketing things like this is plant-based, this is healthy
Is it
for you.
really?
Is it really? Exactly. So after this program, you'll have a couple of things just in mind so that when you are at home and you want to throw something together that is nutritious, it doesn't have to be a hassle. You don't have to pull up the gloves and take out everything and make it a big thing to do. It can
That's great.
move right along.
And I think as we were creating this, one of the things that really drew me to it is I feel overwhelmed when I'm looking at changing things to plant-based meals.
Mhm.
So this has really helped in learning how to do it simply one meal at a time. And talk about the kind of benefit you get from just changing one meal
Oh,
a
yeah.
day or a week.
Right. Even one meal that's replaced, with if you have basically substituting either chicken or beef or fish, by substituting that protein with a plant-based protein, something like legumes and chickpeas and lentils, the biggest benefit is that you're getting more fiber.
Okay. And we know we never get enough fiber any day, right?
No, Americans are supposed to eat 25 to 35 grams of fiber per day.
Right.
When I did a lot of food journaling, a nice average would be like 7 to 12.
Oh my gosh.
Because, think about a normal day. You wake up in the morning, I got to run, grabbed a protein bar, for example. Went to Wawa, got a granola bar.
Right.
Then lunch comes and, you have to grab something again, or you might just grab a pre-made salad.
Yes, totally.
We got one.
Right.
And then the afternoon comes by, snack, something salty, something sweet.
Totally.
And then at dinner time, you might have your meat, potatoes, and your portion of vegetables that's about this big. And that's it. So in the grand scheme of things, in that example, somebody's only eating 3 servings of vegetables per day.
Wow.
And what's recommended is 5 to 9.
Okay.
So,
and that's something we don't really want to be at the lower end. We want to try to strive to be at the higher end.
Right. And there has been actual recent research studies that have been published that specifically discuss how kind of not so good our country is at meeting that recommendation.
Well, we're quick. We're on the go.
Right.
We're grabbing a lot of stuff to eat.
We got to work.
Yes, we do have to work. Okay. So all those things in mind, I'm going to start at the basics and say, why is it important for me to have that much fiber every day?
Our top killers are, our top causes for disease, chronic diseases are typically going to be a heart disease. That's number one.
Okay.
That's number one killer. The second one, cancer.
Mhm.
And then as you go down the list, diabetes gets thrown in there as well.
Yes, which doesn't help anything ever.
No, that's completely complicates things.
Right.
It's overwhelming for anybody who's told that they have to start counting their carbohydrates and giving
Right.
themselves insulin. I've had a lot of even like bariatric patients, that's one of the reasons why they get the surgery in the first place, is to
Just easier.
if they maybe have diabetes, they get the surgery and they just run away from it.
Mm.
So in the grand scheme of things, by eating healthier foods, eating more fiber, and like just really getting those good nutrients in, your metabolism in your body is going to work the way that it's supposed to.
Okay.
If I don't have enough fiber, then the cholesterol that might be in my blood might start to thicken over time. Chicken, fish, ice cream, butter,
Yeah, exactly.
cheese, these are cholesterol containing foods. And we know
Right.
that high cholesterol intake does correlate most oftentimes with a high LDL cholesterol. And that's the bad one, right? So you have the good cholesterol and then the bad one. The saturated fats in that area, the animal products, they're the ones who usually cause the increase of cholesterol, and processed foods too. So not to say it's not only just the animal products, but things like already prepared cakes.
Really bad, right?
Yeah, like if you go, I don't want to throw Tasty Cake under the bus because that's it's true. It's our
Easy
heart.
on it. Easy on it, girl.
But things in that nature, prepackaged. Have you heard how Twinkies could last through the
Oh, no.
apocalypse?
That's just not good.
The type of oils that they use to make that thing stay squishy and fresh for a really long time, those are the types of oils that can also raise our LDL cholesterol.
Yeah, it just doesn't sound like it could be good for us if it could last that long, right?
Right. If it lasts that long in real life, that's how long it's lasting in your body.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So a good thing, a great way to think about it is, let's say you're cooking a roast. Let's say you did like a roast in the pan, sheet pan. When you go to the sink and you try to clean it off,
Right.
how hard is that?
Oh, it's pretty hard.
So it's the same thing for our bodies. Our body also has a hard time
Time.
scraping it all
Yeah,
out.
that does make sense.
And so we need to have the fiber because we need the scrub brush.
So the fiber is our scrub brush?
The fiber is our scrub brush.
Okay.
So that our
makes
blood
sense.
can continue to flow on a, easy pace. And by doing so, you're reducing the risk for not high cholesterol, but then also diabetes.
Wow. All with 25 to 35 grams of fiber a day.
That's significant benefits, of getting those higher numbers. I think there was a statistic that was every eight gram increase of fiber per day, your life expectancy increases by a certain percentage. And they've got a lot
Wow.
of these numbers that, I'm really excited to talk about.
Scientific data, right?
Yeah, it's all the numbers, because it's not just people talking about things. It's not just, my mom grew up in California in the 60s and 70s. So it's not just granola food.
Right,
Like
right.
it's food that we should all be having and following these dietary kind of guidelines.
Yes. And
Yeah.
what a crazy concept that eating is actually meant to nourish our bodies.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Whoever thought?
Well, I think there's, if you ever sit down in a restaurant, if you ever get a restaurant and you get something, you eat it, you stand up
Oh, yes.
and you're like, I don't
Really?
feel good. Time to go take a nap. That's unfortunately really common. And food is supposed to do the opposite. We're supposed to eat our food and then go, ha ha ha, and enjoy the
like
rest.
you are right now. Is that why you're so high energy?
I'm pretty excited. I'm pretty excited. Have lentils today, cover some
Okay,
of
so they
those.
stoked you.
Mhm, yeah, that's the power bean.
Okay.
And we'll talk about lentils too.
Of course. I think you have some over there.
Yes. So really, by choosing these foods with higher fiber, meeting those goals, it's less likely that we're going to develop that atherosclerosis, the hardening of the arteries.
Oh, that's scary.
And it's less likely that our blood sugar is going to concentrate and become very high. So our blood sugar can just be high because of a lot of reasons. But one in particular could be if you have high cholesterol, the blood that's running through that
Right.
artery is very dense and very compact. So those sugars are going to be high.
Got it.
Yeah. So that's why it kind of works for one, works for the other, which works for the other, which works for the other.
Okay.
So when they say, what's the best diet for diabetes and heart disease and cancer, they're not, it's not as separate as we once
Right.
thought it was.
Right.
Nutrition science is moving along. One of the newest sciences that even exists, kind of starting out like when they started doing food rations back in the day, like the 50s and stuff like that. That's when the dietitian started even becoming a profession.
Right.
So, learning lots of things. And now it's pretty cool to, instead of say, you're on a diet for this, you're on a diet for this, you're on a diet for this, we're just like, hey, everybody, this is a common ground that we all need to stand on to run our bodies efficiently and to make ourselves, we got stuff to do.
Right.
I can't be sick.
Right. And we don't want to feel tired after a meal. We want to feel energized.
Yeah. I always feel like I've got too much to do.
Right.
To feel like I need to take a nap after I eat something.
And these chronic illnesses that you're talking about, they really are and do have a lot to do with the way we eat, our weight, what we're eating.
Yeah.
So even to change a meal at a time can make a difference, right?
Yes. Yes.
And
exactly.
Dr. Lee, who I work closely with, right? She always talks about like real significant lifestyle changes.
Right.
So that's where all of this comes in. And as a health system, we want to make sure everybody's eating healthier because we want people to live their best lives.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get out. When I was working in the hospital a lot more, You know, it'd be nice. You'd meet somebody, you'd talk, have a good conversation, and then be like, I hope I never see you again.
Right.
So
right.
we want to have more of those interactions, and the more preventative we are to keep those conditions from worsening or progressing
Yes.
over time, you know, the healthier and more energy we'll have to live our best life.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And definitely if you just substitute, like, you know, a lot of people are starting to do like oat milk. This came up recently.
Yes, I have seen that all over the place.
That little difference, you know, if somebody does heavy like cream in their coffee every
Right.
day, and they, you know, you don't measure your cream, it's a
No.
color.
Oh,
You know,
you're right.
it's a
It is
color.
a color.
You don't measure it, it's a color.
Right.
So who knows? Maybe sometimes that could be somewhere up to like a quarter of a cup of
Wow,
cream,
that's
of
a lot
heavy
of
cream. And we just, you know, we don't think about it. You substitute that high concentration of saturated fat in that one event with something like oat milk, which has no saturated fat at all.
Wow.
And if you like it just the same, you've saved yourself a lot of good, you know, a lot of good points so that your cholesterol intake can
Right.
stay below, you know, stay low as possible.
And that's just a little change.
Yeah, that is such a little change.
Right. I
Yeah.
love that.
Mhm.
Okay. So I know we wanted to talk about what a plate looks like.
Yes. Yes.
You want to
So
do that now?
yes.
Okay. I'm going to get this.
Okay, it's good to see
Is it this way or this way?
this way.
Okay.
So fun fact, I used to do caricatures at Six Flags.
You did?
Yeah.
I didn't know that about you.
So I'm about to draw everyone silly on this chalkboard.
No.
That's your warning. All right. So one thing that makes plant-based diets kind of seem overwhelming is that, you know, it's hard to think that you get enough nutrition.
Yes, I often hear, but I'll never have enough protein.
Exactly.
Right?
I'll never have enough protein, or my boyfriend's parents say this all the time. It never fills me up.
Okay.
You know, if they have a vegetarian meal, you're still hungry later.
Right. I've heard that too.
Yeah. And, you know, there's different pieces to the puzzle here to make a complete meal that's satisfying and filling every time. And this is it.
Okay. Tell us the secret.
Well, you remember the food pyramid?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. So
For years,
we
right?
got rid of the food pyramid. That's
Okay,
gone.
5 food pyramid.
5 food pyramid. And we've replaced it with something called the My Plate. Have you seen this before?
I think I have.
Yeah, they've been doing some good marketing. They'll be on some packages. They'll do the My Plate, but it's my favorite teaching tool to help to encourage a balanced plant-based diet by utilizing each of these sections, making sure that you not only have your protein, but also your starchy vegetable or whole grain.
And those are good fillers, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Like we
Yes.
need them. If you have a meal that's just, let's say, you know, chicken on some lettuce, even just
Yeah.
that,
Right,
it's
you-
a pretty plant forward meal. If you have like more salad than chicken and the chicken's like 2 ounces,
Right.
that's still a good, more plant forward meal, but you are going to feel hungry later.
Right.
So
That makes sense to me. So this part really makes sense.
yes. So starchy vegetables, things that are in that category, things like winter squash.
Okay.
I love those.
And you can do so much with that.
Oh yeah. Butternut squash.
Well, I love butternut
But,
squash, the cinnamon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's delicious.
Right.
In that kind of headspace too, sweet potatoes,
Oh,
you know, they
yeah.
get a lot of good reputation for a good reason. But in addition to sweet potatoes, we're not going to shame any other kind of potato in the meantime.
Oh my gosh, you're kidding.
White potatoes,
I can eat a white potato.
we're gonna roll with some white potatoes.
Okay.
So, but with the skin on and prepared very simply.
And I've heard the skin has a lot of fiber. Is that why we're keeping it on?
Skin's full of fiber and the inside is full of soluble fiber, which
Oh
is
my
nature's
gosh.
Metamucil.
There you go. Mother Nature, she's so smart.
It's not neon orange and in a packet that I have to add to my drink every day. That sometimes drives me crazy. How often that's suggested over eating like the,
Yes.
you know, starchy vegetables. So I digress. other starchy things, vegetables that you might hear that somebody might say that are bad or unhealthy are things like corn.
Oh my gosh, I hear that all the time. Don't eat corn. It does nothing for
Right.
you.
Corn is a whole grain. Corn is a whole grain. It's a mind blower.
So is all whole grain created equally?
They're all different in different ways, by, their color, by their consistency. So let's say corn is one type of whole grain that you can have in this meal. Another type of whole grain you could have is something that's popular, quinoa.
Oh yeah, I hear a lot about quinoa.
And then brown rice.
Love brown rice.
And now, there's purple rice and black rice and
Yes.
red rice.
So are all those good too?
Yep. Yeah.
As long as they're not white.
Right.
Okay.
And
no
no,
white rice.
and like the white rice, it happens sometimes, right? 80% of the time we can control what we eat. We can buy
Right.
the groceries and have it all ready and set and go.
Right.
But then if somebody, is like, I got out of work at 10 o'clock, I need to eat Chinese food, and the only rice they have is white rice, then, that's going to happen sometimes.
Okay.
Doesn't mean that you're off the wagon.
Okay.
So, but the other ones, they have that fiber content, that high insoluble fiber content, in addition to protein.
Okay.
So there is protein in whole grains, things like
Is there
brown rice.
really?
Yep. Corn, quinoa.
Corn has protein?
Yes. Every living thing contains protein.
I did not know that.
Because
Did you know that?
yeah, because every living thing is comprised out of amino acids.
Wow.
So there are, proteins, they're in high concentration in a lot of animal foods, but they're in existence in all of these foods as well. Even a banana has a gram of protein in it.
So this is interesting because it's already starting to sound more appealing, right?
It's doable.
It's doable.
Yeah, these
it's
are
not
things,
yucky,
Yeah, and I mean, it's when it comes to diet culture and the way people talk about like cutting carbs and
Right.
really reducing the amount of those foods in our diet, it makes you feel like it's temporary.
Yes.
And that doing something temporarily is not going to be a lifestyle change.
You're right.
Long enough to help to decrease risk for those chronic diseases.
That makes sense.
So, it's got to be things that you feel comfortable with.
So what are we having over here? Is it a half a cup of brown rice?
Oh, that's a good question. Oh, this is fun.
Okay, good. I'm excited.
So if you put your hands together like this,
Okay. Like that?
like this.
Okay.
And so this is the size of my stomach,
Okay.
and that's the size of yours.
oh,
It's just a good reference. And so when you're thinking about portion sizes, a good way to kind of average like this, a good way to average the amount of starches that are, would be appropriate on your plate, like whole grains or sweet potatoes, would be just to take this fist here and make it that size.
oh, okay.
So sometimes that's a half a cup. Sometimes it's a little more. Sometimes it might be a little less, depending on, whose hand it is.
So everybody's different. Wow, who knew?
Who knew? Everyone's different.
And then we
Yeah.
all just can't have a half a cup of rice.
Right. Everybody's different. And
Okay.
of course, activity level and going to the gym and all that.
All those things.
That comes
right?
to
Yeah.
that comes into fruition. But like for just the main thing, I like using the hand. I like using that as the starch, and as the protein. So
the palm of your hand.
palm
for
of
the
your hand.
protein.
and then all the rest of the space you just fill with vegetables.
As many as
As
you like.
many as you like.
Wow. We don't have to count them.
No.
My gosh. Okay.
Yes, it's freedom. It's food freedom when you stop counting vegetables and fruits,
It
because
sounds like freedom.
every increased serving of those things that you have per day, again, lengthens your life.
Wow.
Yeah. So on the protein side, when we're thinking about things like lean proteins, oftentimes we go in fish,
Mhm.
chicken, turkey. But when we're doing plant-based proteins, the options kind of turn into things that look more like, the big term for it is legumes. And a legume, it can be a bean, like a black bean. It could be a chickpea,
Okay.
and it could be a lentil. anything that's grown in a pod is considered to be a legume. So that also includes green peas, and that also includes peanuts.
Oh,
So those,
that's nice.
so those are all in the legume, in the legume family here. Other proteins that are really common in our plant-based diets and things that we'll learn about moving forward are things like tofu,
which you've actually introduced me to.
Yes,
and
it's
now
not
I eat
scary.
it once a week.
And it's amazing.
delicious.
And the health benefits of doing so, replacing that one meal with the tofu, but then also the health benefits of the tofu separately are incredible on their own.
Tell me about them.
Oh,
Just a few.
Well, there's really excellent research that shows that if you have at least like a serving or two of soy product per day, and this is a study particularly done for women, it helps to decrease your risk of breast cancer.
Wow.
By a significant percent, because there's something in the soybean called a phytoestrogen.
Okay.
And have you ever heard people say like, oh, soy is bad because it's full of estrogen?
Yes.
That's why that word exists. That's why there's confusion.
Okay.
Because when people think, oh, there's estrogen, that means that's bad. But the phytoestrogen coming from the plant, it takes up the space where the extra other estrogen would go. So it's like if you're in a airport,
right,
and all of the planes are in their ports, all the planes are estrogen, let's say, and you've got one space open, and a big plane can come and fill it, or a little plane that doesn't do much can fill it, and your body won't know the difference.
So the bad estrogen's the little plane.
So
or did I get that wrong?
The big planes would be the estrogen. I know it's a funny analogy. It helps to decrease the amount of excess estrogen that you absorb in your body.
Got it.
It's a shield.
So it's a good thing to have a couple servings a day, especially for women.
Yes, especially for women.
And that should be doable, like fairly easily.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. When you look at places like the blue zones, of the places in the world that people have the longest lifespan with the lowest incidence of disease, there's definitely, you'll see a lot of soy products.
Wow.
Soy products, but also legumes, fava beans,
things from nature.
Plants.
Right.
Plants.
It's a crazy idea.
Crazy idea, but we're going to do it.
Yeah. Okay.
So tofu, again, great option.
Okay.
And so in that light, anything that's like a soybean, because a soybean is a bean. So that would be soy milk, edamame.
Oh, yeah. Like that.
All of that. And then there's also something called tempeh. And this is sometimes intimidating, especially because it's not in a lot of dishes that you see like at the Chinese food restaurant or at different places. Tofu, it's like, all right, we get it. We're a little intimidated, but we're familiar. Tempeh is from Indonesia.
Right. It's not served at the local Italian joint.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
There's no tempeh on the
menu.
No
tempeh, but
that's okay. You can do it.
Like they take a bunch of soybeans and they mash it into a rectangle shape, and then they let it ferment. And by doing so, this turns into a pretty hearty chunk of tofu beans that we can use and slice, very similar to as we would meat.
Okay.
So I've used it to replace corned beef. I like to simmer that with like corned beef spices and stuff.
Nice.
And so that you still have that flavor. And then, we'll do some other recipes moving forward. But the other benefit of it having protein is that it also has fiber because it's a bean, and it's also fermented. So
it's good that it's fermented.
Right. Yogurt. What do you hear about yogurt?
Yeah, it has a lot of probiotics.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you.
So the probiotics.
No fair quizzing me. I'm here to quiz you.
Oh, come on. Well,
I got it right.
I'm going to put you to work. You're going to see.
All right.
There's going to be some activity here.
Okay. Probiotics.
So when it comes to that portion size, again, I like to use the palm of the hand, or, just the other the other fist if we're doing the beans.
Got it.
Because we'll have like a half a cup, 3/4 of a cup to 1 cup of beans, depending on how big you are and what you're doing.
Okay.
And now this side of the plate, I just like to write produce because sometimes it's fruits,
Oh, wow.
sometimes it's vegetables.
And sometimes it's probably
And,
both,
and
right?
sometimes it's both. Yes. So sometimes it's cooked, like raw vegetables and then cooked vegetables. The big thing is that we fill up this half of your plate with something that's a plant food.
Okay.
That isn't the bean or the grain we talked about. So
Wow.
the leafy ones, things like spinach, things like,
really good for us.
yes, romaine lettuce,
Mhm.
kale. I know I
Kale,
put
of
it, I
course.
said, earlier, but it's quite nutritious. Also collard greens.
Okay.
We're not going to make them, don't worry,
Today,
we're not
yeah.
going to make them today. But different types of dark leafy greens are extremely important in a healthy diet. And then also, like, I put fruit here too, because sometimes, let's say I had breakfast,
Right.
I can't always I'm not going to eat a breakfast salad.
No.
And I'm not going to ask
Thank
any,
you.
I'm
We
not
don't
gonna,
have to do that, right?
no, and I'm not going to
Okay.
ask any patients to, like, for breakfast, make sure half of your plate is
Right.
vegetables. That's certain meals that works. Like if you're
Right.
doing like a hash, like sweet potatoes, and you do, with sauteed kale and stuff on the side, that could work out with peppers and onions. We can get there. But that's not what you have for breakfast every day.
No.
That's a lot. That's like a Sunday breakfast. I have time to cook kind of breakfast.
Right.
But for the grab and go, like 9 times out of 10, we're really looking at something that is a fruit. So things like bananas, which are also fine, berries, incredibly nutritious, tons of antioxidants, tons of fiber. And yeah, so just making sure that if you have your meal, this is going to be the way to make sure that you're going to be full from it, is that you have the protein, the starchy vegetable or whole grain, and the rest of it is just fill it up.
All right. So I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, if I was trying to make this into breakfast.
Yes.
I've got my fruit, right? I can do my berries or banana. I'm thinking over here, whole oats.
Yes.
Whole, right?
Yeah. Rolled oats.
Yes.
Yeah. So I know steel cut are pretty,
Steel cut.
they get a
oats,
lot
I
of,
hear- yeah. Are they good?
yeah, they're good. Nutritionally very similar to the rolled oat.
Okay.
So it's really whatever your preference is.
Okay.
I know that.
Eat what you like. I know you say that a
Yeah.
lot, right?
Yeah, exactly. The best oat is the one you'll eat. So
Okay.
even if it's instant and it's, in a packet, as long as it's not, full of sugar,
Right.
then, you're still
Right.
on the good, healthy schedule moving forward.
Okay. And then
So
I'm thinking
oats.
up here, I think you said peanuts.
Yes.
So could I put peanut butter in this?
Yes, you got it. Yeah, you got it.
Wow,
You're good.
I'm doing it.
Yes. So
And that sounds really yummy to me.
peanut butter. So there's all kinds of nut butters these days. There's almond butter, cashew butter. I mean,
Yeah, everything,
it's
right?
it's 2022. We've got a lot of
Yeah.
options. Pistachio butter I've seen before.
Oh, I have too.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
actually bought it.
What do you think?
I think it was really good.
That's so
I love-
exciting. That's so
love
exciting. I
pistachios.
love pistachios.
And I guess again, we're not getting the kind with the sugar.
right. That's another, yeah.
Right.
When you're doing your more plant-based healthful meals, the focus is whole foods in their as close to their natural state as you can get them.
Okay.
So if I look at a jar of peanut butter,
Mm-hmm.
I want to turn that label around and the ingredients should say peanuts,
Peanuts.
period.
Okay.
Maybe salt.
Okay.
But if there's also hydrogenated oil and there's
Oh.
also, corn syrup and corn solids and all these other ingredients.
Things they can't pronounce.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Then it's not peanut butter in the way in which that it's going to provide you the most nutrition. It's yummy. I'm not going to say it's not tasty, but it has a time and place. Right. But if it's like
not at breakfast.
it's not at breakfast. It's like frosting.
Right. You're not going to scoop out the frosting in
right.
the morning.
Exactly. That type of peanut butter nutritionally, I
Right.
want to compare. I'm going to compare it. I think it might be very similar to frosting.
You're probably right.
Yeah. Oil, sugar, salt.
I don't know. I like the plain peanut butter better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Once you get used to it.
Yes. And, you know, at different stores, you can use the grinder. That
Oh.
you can grind it fresh.
That's right. You can.
And that's good too.
Yeah. I bet.
In this light of talking about peanuts and peanut butter, I'm also going to bring up seeds. Where I have my little space. So seeds, that would be things like hemp seeds.
Okay.
Chia seeds.
Oh, I like those.
What flax seeds?
Oh, I always hear a lot about flax
Yeah,
seeds.
and for a good reason.
Why?
Oh, they're again one of the just specifically a lot of cancer research lately.
Okay.
So flax seeds in particular have been shown to have really significant benefits in how much their antioxidant
That's
content.
amazing.
Yeah. In addition to them providing soluble fiber, so it all comes back to the fiber again.
Oh, right.
So when you have that, you know, high fiber in your diet, you're also decreasing risk for diabetes and heart disease and all the other things.
So those are all the reasons that we're so serious about this here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's not just hearsay. He said this, she
This
said
is
that.
scientific.
Nutrition is a science, not an opinion.
Ooh, she is serious.
Yeah.
It's a science, not an opinion. So, okay. So we got great options here.
Yeah.
I figured out breakfast.
Right. You know, and this is, you know, what I'll usually do with patients. If you do, you know, any kind of counseling, you sit down with somebody, it's all about figuring out what works for you, what works in your lifestyle, the foods that you're already eating, and how you can get the balance together. Yeah. So I know when I was a kid, I was a vegetarian for a while. And my plate was like spaghetti.
That wasn't very nutritious, was it?
No, no, but that's all I knew. I was like, that's a vegetarian meal, so it's spaghetti.
Exactly.
But again, that's not going to give me
no energy.
And no energy. Nap time very quickly.
Right.
No protein, not a lot of fiber because it's the refined whole grain. And then, you know, if I didn't have a salad with it, there wouldn't be a vegetable.
Oh, right.
Right.
So nothing.
Right. Nothing. And now we make pasta dishes. When we make them with healthier ingredients, we'll sometimes add things like zucchini and bell peppers and all that stuff.
Wow. That's a ton of stuff.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of nutrition in there. So real quickly, I want to ask you, because I know like back in the 50s, things became very easy, the packaged goods, right? And I think that kind of started the downward spiral, right? In the way we eat.
Right.
But I do see some packaged things here. Can you just touch quickly on it?
Yeah, definitely. So looking at trying to find things that are, you know, as whole as possible, that's the first way you want to go. But again, we have to make it convenient, and you have to, you know, work with your life and your lifestyle. So one thing that I've really been loving lately and seeing is like these bean pastas.
Yeah.
So, you know, pasta in itself, not a lot of fiber, no protein, raises the sugar up, drops it fast. Not really, it's delicious. And if somebody makes it for you with like semolina flour and you're doing the real deal, get the real deal and have the right, you know, amount.
Right.
But if you're doing pasta for a normal weeknight dish, this is an awesome alternative.
Okay.
So it uses the flour from the lentils or the chickpeas or black beans, and they make the shapes that you like.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And yeah, kind of using that similar kind of what I was saying before about the peanut butter. I've got the peanut butter over there.
Okay.
And you know, the oats, they're gonna, you know, come they're technically processed, but they're not, you know,
they're not adding a lot of stuff to them or anything.
I have been seeing pre-made oatmeal, like overnight oats, like on the shelf to buy.
Oh, no.
Right. I mean, that's a slippery slope because it could be healthy like yogurt, but then you add and you add and you add, and then it's ice
and
cream.
then it's down. So
yeah.
one of the things that brought us together to do this series and to do it in Pennington is that we just opened a facility out there.
Yeah.
So we're now out in your neck of the woods with our primary care on Route 31 at 10 Route 31 in Pennington. And we're excited to be there. And I hear there might be a space maybe that we could do some programs out there now and then. So we'll have to see if we can develop an audience and get some friends out there, and maybe they can request that we come over and do some programs. Wouldn't that be fun?
Oh yeah. I mean, especially, you know, as we go forward and make these recipes, you're going to watch it and go, oh, smell-o-vision still doesn't exist yet.
That's right. And if you're in person, well, we tend to give out samples, right?
Every time.
But till we're over there, you could always join us here too. We have a full array of programs here in our fitness and wellness center. So before we go to the Q&A, where you're going to be able to ask some questions and Kim will tell us the questions. Anything else you wanted to add very quickly?
Oh,
there's so much. We could talk forever, right? About everything here.
Nobody likes to talk more about food than a dietitian, because we've studied it for years.
Yeah.
So we never stop talking about it.
But you actually like to cook it too.
Well, yeah,
which is pretty cool.
Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, you know.
All right, let's see. Does Kim, do you have any questions over there for Alyssa?
Hey, you guys are having so much fun. You're making me jelly.
We have a great time together. Wish you were here with us.
Oh, I wish so too. Now I'm confused. I thought you guys were in Pennington. Is this not your Pennington facility? I introduced you as your Pennington.
This is our Hamilton facility.
Okay.
But we can do one in Pennington. Let's just put the bug out there and let us get out there too.
We need to get invited.
I would definitely invite you right now.
Okay, terrific. Well, we'll work that out offline. We'll be happy to be there. But the Pennington facility is open and Dr. Musanaro is there, and I know she'd love to see you.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you for clarifying that. It's hard to know with this virtual world. So that is wonderful. We do have a couple of questions. Marsha wants to know, what brand is that bean pasta? It does look delicious. What brand are we talking about for the box of bean pasta?
Really easy.
Barilla.
Oh. Yeah, the one we see
in
our grocery stores.
Amazing.
They're up to date. This company knows what people want these days.
That's
great. Not the only kind they have. I've seen others too.
Right. Yeah. And there's like store brand. Aldi has store brand,
right?
Like soybean pasta, and Wegmans has store brand chickpea pasta. A lot of different
chickpea pasta.
Yeah, chickpea pasta.
Yeah, a lot of different ones, but this one's easy to find. And I know you guys, I shouldn't talk names, but ShopRite carries Barilla, right? And I think you guys have a ShopRite near you too.
Good one.
Chickpea pasta sounds delicious. I love chickpeas. I make curry chickpeas, and it's just, it's almost like they taste almost like potatoes. They almost like have that taste when you make them like really slow cook them with curry.
So what I'm learning from Alyssa is if you like the curry chickpeas, you might be able to do some kind of curry sauce for the pasta, right?
I was thinking that. Yeah. That sounds really good. If you like, you can make like a curry cream sauce.
Oh, with some coconut milk, right?
Some coconut milk. Yep.
See, Kim, you got to come for lunch one day.
Okay. All right. You guys get me hungry already. Gila has a question. Could you talk more about the protein in the legumes? Is this sufficient protein for your lifestyle to just have protein in legumes solely?
Yes. Great question.
Yeah.
So when a lot of people talk about protein and they refer to, there's something that you'll hear people say, a complete protein,
right,
versus an incomplete protein.
Okay.
So a complete protein is one food that has all 9 of those essential amino acids in one food. Okay. So chicken would be an example of having complete protein.
Okay.
The plant world is not so good at being complete.
Okay.
But that's why it's so important to have the variety.
Makes sense. And that makes it more interesting too.
Yes. So if I get, all one plant that has all 9 essential amino acids, so it's quinoa.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. That one's a fun fact.
That's a fun
I don't know
fact,
any about any other one.
So
But-
about how much in legumes, and does it just depend on which one it is?
Nope. The easiest way to just think about it is that, rice and beans,
Oh,
a grain and a grain and a starch. I mean, a grain and a legume. So a chickpea and brown rice, or a chickpea and potato, or lentils and brown rice or red rice.
and that helps you round out your serving of protein.
Yep. Then you'll
Oh.
collect them all. You
Okay.
collect all.
I like that.
Gotta catch them all. Catch all the amino acids. If they're all in one plate, it's still gonna make protein in your body, and it's gonna be complete.
You made my
Awesome.
night, Alyssa, because now you have a Pokemon reference. So I think, we're done.
I'm glad some-
Went right over my head.
I wouldn't have told you.
Oh my gosh.
So we
So,
were friends.
Alyssa, I am a huge fan of dried fruit, but I try to get the ones that don't have anything added to them. Are they just as nutritious as the fresh fruit if there's no added stuff to it?
It's a little different because for the best example I can come up with is think about raisins versus grapes.
Mhm.
So raisins, you can eat like a lot of raisins. Let's say I had like a quarter cup of raisins, but if you were to count out that many grapes,
That's a lot of
that's a lot
grapes.
of grapes. So you wouldn't probably eat all of those grapes. So when it comes to calorie density, you get more calories from doing the dried fruits because you get more of them than doing the
Ah.
fresh fruits. So nutritionally, they're different in how much energy that they have.
Mhm.
The other difference would be their water content. Water is an essential nutrient. Forget about
Okay.
that.
Yes.
Okay.
And then also the antioxidants that are on the skins of the grapes. They also, they're going to be very similar to the dried fruit. So that's where you're going to have a parallel. Is like a dried mango is going to have similar antioxidant content to a fresh mango. But I know if I eat too much dried mango, my body is like, what did you just do?
Is there more sugar, or does it just seem that way?
The sugar is concentrated.
Okay.
Yeah, so it
Oh.
more sugar per
Sorry,
serving.
Kim.
That may have happened to someone in my family once with the dried mango. We do love dried mango in my family.
Oh, love dried mango.
I
Yeah.
do too.
But when you had too much.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's like, I'm not supposed to eat that many mangoes.
Yes.
So if you were going to eat a whole mango, you eat a lot less of a dried mango.
Right. Like maybe they say maybe like a 3 or 4 slices of it,
Okay.
and not like
Ah.
So you can
bag.
still enjoy it. That's what I like about
Right.
you, is that we get to still enjoy things.
Right. I don't want to mess with foods that people love, because
Right.
eating is so much more than nutrition.
It is.
It's family, it's habit, it's who we are.
Experience, right?
It's very personal.
It
Yeah.
is. And we don't want to
So-
take the fun out of it. We want to
Mhm.
keep it fun.
Oh,
and
that's
if
great.
people figure it out.
That's great. Well, Alyssa, Sandy has a question, and this is a good question. For a dairy milk substitute, there are so many options. There's soy, almond, oat, etc. Is one better than the other? Is 1% dairy okay?
Yeah, definitely. Great question. So I look at the milks a lot. I've been
I'm
allergic
sure.
to milk for about 10 years now.
Mhm.
And so in the very beginning, the real popular milk alternatives were rice milk
Mhm.
and soy milk. And so when you compared the two nutritionally, rice is not going to have the protein. The soybean will.
Okay.
So, right off the bat, okay, the soy milk is going to have more protein. So usually I start to think about different alternative milks, with soy being like the king. He's the
king.
boss. Like that's the boss nutritious milk alternative, because
okay.
it's going to have similar protein. It's going to have similar calcium. It's going to have similar things to cow's milk. Kind of going further from that, almond milk is a great thing. I love almond milk. I use it in cereal and coffee, and I'm very much used to it.
Right.
It's great for somebody who's diabetic. who's looking to decrease the amount of sugars that they're
Mhm.
eating in each meal, especially if you're having cereal, whereas regular milk has about 12 grams of naturally occurring
Right.
sugar per serving, the almond milk has 1.
Wow, what a difference.
So it's going to be a difference in the blood sugar. So that's going to make it, that's pretty significant. But you'll know that you're not getting the protein from that milk because the almond milk, unless they've been fortifying it now. As you said, there are lots of them and they keep making
There
more.
are.
So they've been making a high protein almond milk.
Really?
Yeah, I think that they got like 10 grams in there.
So is that a healthy option, even though they're putting it in?
It's an alternative to whole milk.
Okay.
It's better than whole milk.
Okay. All right.
And you know, in cases of looking at things in such an environment way, and the other reasons why eating plant-based meals is better for the planet, you know, it's still a better option in that category. So the almond milk is great to use for flavoring. It's good to use for sauces. It's good to use for soups and stuff like that. But just know that it's white milk.
Right.
Like,
So it sounds like you're saying soy milk is probably just because it's king, it's the best.
right
option.
on its own. That's the you know, without any extra stuff put into it. It's the one that has the most naturally occurring protein.
Makes sense.
Ooh, there's another one that's new. Not new, but flax milk.
Oh, wow.
I
yeah.
know.
That sounds really healthy.
My
is
mom
it?
loves flax
Does
milk.
she?
Yeah, she swears by it. I know that it's more, that one is like more expensive.
Yes.
You know, I like almond milk because it's like $1.70.
Yeah.
$2.05. The flax milk is more around $4 range.
Okay.
So it depends on your lifestyle. I know my mom just eats the same like bowl of cereal every single morning. So she puts that money up front for the flax milk. Then of course we have coconut milk, which I love using for culinary purposes, especially for curry and sauces and things like that. But when they put the coconut milk in the carton, that milk, it's very similar in fat content to like a low fat, like a 2% milk.
Right.
So you're doing very similarly in the saturated fat world, but you are using a plant-based product versus the animal.
Okay. So still better.
Right. In that thought. And then I'm not even going to talk about rice milk because that's yucky.
Okay.
I tried it for you enough times. Didn't work out.
Okay, good.
And then let me think.
Oat
milk. Yeah, we were talking about oat milk.
Yeah.
Oat milk, naturally, you know, you want to read those labels. That's the most
Okay.
important thing with all of these milks. I didn't say this before. The most important thing is to check the ingredients label and just check and see if they put sugar in it.
Ugh.
So once they do
Why
that,
do they do that?
they do it. And I mean, it's for, you know, for kids and for being a substitute to milk, because milk's naturally a little bit sweet. You know, there might be 5 or 7 grams in there, which really is no big deal. But sometimes you flip that label over and it says like 20 or 50. They can really sneak it in there. So always check the label and make sure that you're getting as close to unsweetened without extra sugar as possible.
Okay. That totally makes sense.
And that, you know, that was my recent problem with oat milk. I was in Target and I was looking at all the different oat milks and I was like, I want to try the oat milk, but I couldn't find one that didn't have added sugar.
Okay.
But then I was somewhere else and I found it. So
Unfortunately, not just with milk, but a lot of the things that we perceive as being healthy are tampered with. They're adding stuff to it and it's not what we think it is.
Well, even milk, like regular milk, 2% milk, whole milk. My aunt is, she does pediatrics and she always just calls it, she calls it vitamin D milk, but she means whole milk. So that's fortified as well.
Right. It is. Yes.
So they put the vitamin D in the milk. It's not naturally occurring.
Right.
So, you know, when it comes to vitamin D, we're really at, you know, we have to do the sunshine stuff. But even from the beginning, even regular cow's milk is fortified. And so it's not that product, it's not that milk is like extremely nutritious for us because
that
of the vitamin D.
Right.
You know, we're not, the calcium and the vitamin D, it gets praised for that. Calcium, vitamin D, protein. You can get those things from a lot of other foods.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good.
It's not the king anymore.
Milk's not the king anymore.
Yeah, Francis notes that almond milk for almond milk, almond trees apparently need an extraordinary amount of water. And so she doesn't think they're the best choice when considering the environment. So it's just a little bit from Frances.
That's like definitely stuff that's been coming out, is the comparison in environmental impact. But nothing impacts the environment better than just avoiding the beef in general. So I like to think like, all right, if I'm having almond milk sometimes, I'm using more water. If I used oat milk, it would use less resources and less water. So depending on your budget, depending what your life and what you're using it for, go with what works for you. So definitely, if that's something that makes you feel like uncomfortable, cashew milk, super good. I didn't even talk about cashew milk. Cashew milk's very good.
Okay.
And then, just when you do have more plant-based meals and you substitute and you do like one less cow emitting the methane gases that have been, shown to contribute to a lot of environmental problems, you're doing so much more benefit, than you are if you were to just change the milks up a little bit.
Got it.
Did that answer your question?
You went into milk very, very thoroughly. So I think we've answered the milk question. So that is great. You did raise the beef question. I have a question. In terms of, there's so many substitutes that are out there now, and I know that the less processed, the better. But for those of us who need a treat every so often, how do you feel about these new meat substitutes? Like, I don't know, Beyond Burger, or the Impossible Burger. Like, what are your thoughts on those?
That is like the perfect last question to ask. Because they are everywhere. Store brands are making their own too. There's like ShopRite, Aldi, they make their own fake meat. The idea of the fake meat in the grand scheme of things, better for the environment.
Right.
All right.
Makes
so
sense.
we want to focus on that. Nutritionally, it's very similar to regular meat.
So that's not good.
Right. So if you're going to have a burger, you might choose to have the beef burger, or you might choose to have the Beyond Burger. Either way, you're just having a burger. One is less impactful on the environment than the other. Nutritionally, though, the saturated fat content is very similar. The type of iron is actually a little bit different in some of them. So that can be discussed in, some cases, that that beef, like the iron from beef, is not as good as the iron from like broccoli.
Okay.
So yeah, my thing is that junk food is junk food.
Yeah.
And the minute they start adding things to it to try to make it taste like something else.
Yeah.
Right.
And so it's a good transition food. Like if I told my family that I'm going to make you chickpea meatballs, they're going to look at me like with two heads. Like, that's disgusting. That's terrible. Don't come here. But if I start to go, okay, I'm going to bring use the Beyond stuff, and you get to try it and go, oh, it's possible.
Yeah.
Like, it's not bad. And I can start to, then from there, they branch the familiarity with different,
makes sense,
more natural plant-based food. So it's a very good stepping stone for a lot of people who are just trying to kind of dabble and transition.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Thank you. Marsha just said, she said, my husband thinks the Impossible Burger from Burger King is healthy. Please help.
Oh, you have to have him watch the video. Right? They can watch the show over again, so he doesn't want to eat those.
Oh yeah. Do it. Yeah. Show him the copy of it.
Right.
But definitely, even if you do a little quick Google search, you'll find some similarities, some differences in sodium and fat, but nothing really significantly better for you.
Yeah. Have you heard this? Have either of you heard this term, lessitarian? I just discovered this term called lessitarian. Lessitarian. Apparently, it describes me aptly, which is just trying to eat healthier and eat less bad food for me. The idea of,
a great term.
Yeah.
But I haven't heard of that. But similarly, flexitarian is Yeah, so you're flexible. Sometimes
Oh,
you're gonna get the plant-based stuff, but sometimes you won't. So you're open to all you're open to all opportunities. You're not saying I'm vegan, so I don't eat this.
right.
You might, and that's okay. So if you don't want to hold yourself under a, you're a pescatarian, you're a vegetarian, you're
Right.
whatever, saying you're flexitarian is just a nice way of saying you're an omnivore who's looking to be more, you're an omnivore who's looking to be more healthy and choose healthier foods more often.
She's
Yeah.
always honest.
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking for Marcia with your husband, I just think sometimes it's hard to put yourself under that microscope, as you mentioned, Alyssa, and, any little bit helps, any substitute helps,
And I
instead of
think you
going all
and
the
the
way.
audience is going to learn that as they go through this series, because it truly is just one meal at a time.
Yep.
And as Alyssa says, you might get it all right in this meal, but you may do something a little different in the next meal. And
it's all good.
a little grace is a good thing, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Don't need to stress out.
Kim, thank you so much for having us tonight. We enjoy being with you, and thank you, audience, for joining us. Alyssa, thank you so much for always sharing your wealth of knowledge.
My favorite conversation.
Yes. And, this is just part of what we do here at Robert Wood Johnson University Hospital. We're committed to doing it better. We don't want you unhealthy. We want you healthy, living your best life. So, Kim, can we answer anything else? Are we good to go?
Well, you know what? As you had mentioned several times, this is part 1. We will have more, and our other sessions will be posted weekly on the Pennington Public Library YouTube channel. For all of those of you who attended today, and also people who couldn't make it, if you've signed up, I'll have your emails, so I will email you with the information weekly as the episodes are released, and we're releasing them every Wednesday in May. So
that's awesome.
It's very exciting. Thank you so much to both of you. Joyce, Alyssa, it's been a pleasure and so much fun to boot. So
absolutely. And you are so very welcome. We hope to join you again soon.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.
Thanks.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Make it a great night.